Hello, welcome back to another knitting podcast. My name is Michelle, and today I'm going to share with you what I have been knitting on in the month of August. So, the thing I finished in August is this sweater. This is the Winnie sweater by Woozy by Celine. So in the previous episode, I have finished the body, but I still needed to work on the sleeves. Finally, I did it. It was kind of a slog mentally to work on the sleeves, but yeah, I was able to finish it and wear it to this little work party for my boyfriend. So that was nice. You know, if you have an event to go to, it gives you a deadline to finish things, which is really helpful for me at least. Anyway, so let's first talk about the pattern. It is a top-down construction with a contiguous construction. So if you don't know what a contiguous construction is it basically a blend of different kind of increases to shape your fabric. Yeah. First, you only increase on both sides of this line. I don't know if you can see, to shape the shoulder. And then you also increase, I don't think I can explain it. But yeah, you have a different set of increases to make stitches for your arm, for your sleeve. And then lastly, you do a normal or raglan increase to give the sleeve and the body some width. You use a really big needle. From what I remember, it was a 5mm needle. This sweater does have short row shaping in the back, even though this neckline is quite high. So I did do some modifications. The sleeves are supposed to be bell sleeve, but I personally don't really like the look of that. So I basically just decreased every 13th or 14th round. I decrease on the inside of the sleeve. Knit two together on one side and a slip knit on the other side. With this yarn, I feel like you can barely see any shaping, which I don't mind. So one new technique that I haven't known about in this pattern is the non-rolling stockinette. So there's a way of picking up the stitches so your stockinette fabric doesn't roll as it usually does. So I did it for the neckline, for the cast on, and I also did it for the body cast off. In this fabric, it becomes a bit bumpy, so it feels thicker, which makes sense. Yeah, it doesn't curl, but I didn't really like the process of doing that. So for the sleeves, I basically just bound off normally. And it does not curl. So I think if you don't want to do that technique, you could technically just omit it and try to block it really well. I do have to say this yarn, this is the leftover I have of it, doesn't have that much wool. It is mohair, cotton, acrylic, and probably a little bit of wool. So probably it does not have as much memory as a 100% wool yarn would be. So then I think if you would use a 100% wool yarn, it will probably curl more. Just want to say, keep that in mind. Speaking of yarn, I don't have the label of this anymore. This yarn is gifted and it's a really beautiful, it's a green color, lots of, so the mohair part is green, but the thread itself is actually very stiff. I think that's the acrylic part, with little flecks of blue and pink, yellows, which creates this fabric. I think it's beautiful. I think it's totally my style. I would definitely make something like this again with a different kind of yarn. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. If you have any idea, let me know. Now we can move on to my whip islands. I have 5 of them. So let's start with the oldest. You've seen this one before if you watched the previous episode. This is the tied loop tee by Otherloops. And I did make a tiny bit of progress. So once again, the yarn is from the Naturally Dyed Studio with BFL, Blue Face Leicester yarn, and I think dyed with indigo. And I've worked a little bit more of the front. You probably can't tell, but I have worked a couple of rows, maybe like 10 or 12 rows of the front. Yeah, it really is taking forever, but I think, let's see where I am in the chart. So I have to do about 20 more rows before I can connect the back with the front and knit in around. This project is just, you cannot do it mindlessly, which is why it's been taking so long. This month I've decided to not go on social media, so I have a little social media detox, which also means I'm not going on YouTube. If I'm only listening to music or listening to a podcast, I can concentrate better on reading the pattern. So high hopes that in the month of September I will work on this more, you know. But also I'm not in any rush, you know. I'm not a manufacturer knitter, so there's no real deadline, but it would be nice to continue working on this. 4 more whips. Let's start with the one that you have already seen before. So in the last episode, I was really excited about my colorwork sweater that I'm doing for the first time. And I finished the colorwork portion. It is the Nova sweater by the Knit Purl Girl. Looks like this. It is so beautiful. You know how, like, when you look at colorwork, you look at it closely and you think like, oh my god, it's so messy and I don't see any pattern at all. And then you look at it from afar and you see the pattern and it's just gorgeous. Yeah, so the thing is, I ran out of this gray yarn. I knew it. I knew I wouldn't have enough, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna use blue for the rest of the body. But then I did it, and then my boyfriend was like, the blue is too distracting. And so I listened to him and I tried to find this Schachenmeyer 120 yarn, but it's probably discontinued. It's really hard to find. So I decided to just go with a different kind of gray, Drops Charisma. And I've already started knitting with it, and you can see that it is a different kind of gray. I think it's slightly bothering me because I'm not knitting on it. I'm not knitting on it as much as I want. Well, I do have like 4 other whips, so that says something, but still. So I'm kind of like on the fence with this one. I really love the color work, so I do want to finish it, but the color difference is making me a bit wary, so I think I'm just gonna knit on it some more because now it's just stockinette, mindless knitting, and just see how much it bothers me. Yeah, and if I really don't like it, then I think I might as well do a pop of color and maybe even do some stripes, you know, to make it even busier and even more distracting. I don't know. So this project is kind of on hold, but I am knitting it kind of, but it's more of a lingering-ish whip. Okay, but once again, the Nova sweater, if you're new to colorwork knitting, I highly recommend. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. Yeah, the white is Drops Charisma, some leftovers, and the gray is the Schachenmeyer 100% wool 120. And I'm knitting it on 4.5 millimeters. Second whip. Then I have 3 more whips. I have started the Lonely Leftover Vest by Wool and Beyond. And here she is. Huh, gorgeous. Gorgeous. Let's talk about the yarn first. This is Cascade 220, 100% wool. I bought this on on this Dutch marketplace called Marktplaats, and I got these 2 colors and actually also a little bit of this color. So as you can see, I wanted the back to have this color, and I wanted to use this color, which is this yarn, for the contrasting I-cord edging. But then I realized I don't have enough of this for my back panel, so I decided to omit this and then use this one for the back. And I have this leftover Drops Nepal in this brown, chocolatey brown color, and I decided to use this one as the I-cord edging color. And then the main body is just this white. So it is knit in 6 millimeter needles, so it's going pretty fast. And as you can see, it's all garter stitch, and you knit back and forth, so it's all the knit stitch, super easy. And you knit this back panel first, and then you pick up stitches to knit this kind of I-cord looking horizontal line. And then you basically pick up stitches to make the back and pick up stitches to make the front, and then connect it. And now I'm basically working on the body until I have a certain amount of length. And then if you look at the sample picture, you can see that the bottom is rounded. So then I would probably have to make some decreases here. And at the end, it's just a lot of I-cord knitting. Not sure if I look forward to that. One thing, I did use 3 millimeter needles for this I-cord, and I think it is a bit too tight. Yeah, so for the rest of the I-cord, I think I'm going to use 4. Because I don't want my vest to be all scrunched up. I think I can try it on for you just to see. So this is what it looks like right now. Yeah, garter stitch, such a squishy fabric. It feels like those bubble wraps, you know? You just want to squish it. Yeah, so this is a lot of fun to work with. I think I'm gonna have plenty of leftovers. What do I want to do with this? No idea. No idea, but we'll see. I would say that this is kind of a dream knit. I've seen this pattern for maybe over a year now, and I'm finally knitting one. So I'm super excited to have it this fall and to layer it over all my shirts and sweaters. So ready for whip number 4. Whip number 4 is another sweater. Backstory. So when I was buying the gray Drops Charisma for the Nova sweater, I had to buy a bit more yarn to get free shipping. So of course I did. And on a very whim, I decided to get some Drops Air in this very, very deep red. I think it's called Carmine Red. So if you don't know, Drops Air is a blown yarn with baby alpaca and merino wool. It's super soft. I have made, or am still making, my first ranunculus. Oh my god. It's such a soft yarn. It creates such a soft and fluffy fabric. So, oh my god, this red is so blown out. Okay, I think in real life it looks more like this. Let's talk about pattern. So this is the ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I think almost every knitter knows about it. The most popular pattern, and of course I had to try it myself. So it is a top-down sweater. What do you call it? A round yoke. So you basically increase in the yoke, so there's no raglan or whatever shaping to create shoulder and arm stitches. So of course I did some modifications. Which size needle? I'm using 5.5 millimeter needles for everything. So this is a twisted rib. I did do the short row shaping in the front and in the back. And then it's my first time doing these little weird looking stitches. And it's easier than I thought, but not recommended in this yarn because this yarn is so fluffy. It's harder to see individual strands of yarn. And I did make a mistake. I don't know if you can tell. There's supposed to be little holes, like little eyelid holes. You do it by yarning over and then the next round knitting it. And I'm so used to knitting yarn overs through the back loop so that you don't have holes. So I did that, but I think you're actually supposed to knit it in the front of the stitch so you create holes. So my ranunculus doesn't really have holes. Maybe like a tiny little bit, do you see here? There's supposed to be bigger holes, I think. So in my next ranunculus, because no one ever only just knit one ranunculus, I'm gonna try to make holes. And also, I think this yarn is so fluffy, it kind of like, it's hard to create holes, I think, with this yarn because it has so much volume. I'm now doing the twisted ribbing for the body. Little did I realize that twisted rib takes forever. So I've been putting it on hold because I just did not feel like doing twisted rib. But now I'm back into the flow. And look how much I've left. I'm almost done with this ball. Yes, and then I have 2 more balls left. So this is going to be the left shoulder and this is going to be the right shoulder. And I'll see. I think I'm not going to do the ribbing because I'm sick of it. But I might. We'll see. We'll see what kind of sleeves I make. But once again, I don't like wide. I don't like bell sleeves. So I think I'm definitely going to taper it in a bit. And I'll see if I just do a regular bind off or I do ribbing. We'll see. We'll see about that. But yeah, it's such a super fluffy, lightweight fabric. So if that is your style, I highly recommend. And it's also my first time knitting in red. My palette is like all pastel, green, blue, pink. Now it's like red, you know? It's perfect for upcoming fall. We have one more whip. And it is a sock. So I bought this pattern quite a while ago. I think definitely last year. Because I saw Future Fiber knit it herself and I was very inspired. And I've always wanted to knit cables. And what better way to start doing cables in a sock? So this is the I'm Ecstatic socks by Coolstitches. I think you can see the cable better if you stretch it out. You can see it? So I finished my first sock. It is a top-down construction and I'm now working on my second one. I'm pretty far because this is a thicker weight. What do you call it? A DK? I'm using 3mm needles. So I'm already at my foot portion of my second sock. And it's very convenient because you can count the amount of cables you have to know where you are in the pattern. I find that very helpful. And the yarn I'm using is actually, as you can see, completely not matching. But I was like, I don't care, I just want to use up this yarn because it's been in my stash forever. The gray one is Drops Fable. And the pink one is Rowan Kid Silk Haze that my boyfriend got me. But yeah, I was like, I just need to use up this yarn, and this pattern calls for a sock yarn together with a mohair. So I thought, perfect, just gonna use it up. So if I have used a more solid color, it would have served this pattern even better. I don't know, what do you think? I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So I would definitely re-knit this pattern with a more solid color. The cables can shine even more, you know, it would be less busy. I like knitting cables. The thing is, I don't have cable needles. Luckily, I have a sock double pointed needle, so I've been using this to do the cables. It's definitely too long, way too long, but it works. It works. So another fun thing about this pattern is that I have learned a new heel technique, and that is the shadow wrap heel. Yes, the shadow wrap heel. And I like it. Actually, I like the look of it, and I like the process of it. I just wonder if it is as sturdy as those heel flaps, because this is just normal knitting, and usually heel flap you get a thicker fabric, but it is super easy and you don't have to like pick up stitches or whatever. So if you're looking for a new, relatively easy, because once you get the hang of it, it's super easy. Look up the shadow wrap. The shadow wrap. Yes, and of course it's a super warm fabric, so very winter appropriate. I already have a pair of socks for winter. I do have one thing that I want to share. It's my mistake, so I hope you don't copy my mistake. So I have pre-wound the sock yarn together with the mohair yarn, and I've been pulling it from the center, and what happens is this. The yarn, these two strands of yarn, they don't want to come out evenly at the same time, so I constantly have to do this to fix the problem, but then my next problem occurs, and you know, so far it has not caused any tangles, but it is not ideal. So learn from my mistakes. Maybe not pre-wound your yarn, your 2 balls of yarn, or I don't know, maybe don't get your yarn from the inside. I actually don't know what causes this, but I just know that they don't like to be together, just so you know. Yeah, but yeah, I'm Ecstatic Socks by Coolstitches. Very cool. Very cool. And that is all my whips in August. With the remainder of our time together today, I would like to talk about some knitting plans for September. So of course, with so many whips, I would like to at least finish my sock, which would be easy, finish my ranunculus, which I think is also doable. I'll probably not finish the Lonely Leftover vest because I know that the I-cord edging part is going to be very tedious, but at least that my body would be done, you know. I will also give myself some grace. I definitely don't have to finish the tie loop tee, and I know it's probably going to be midwinter when I finish that project, maybe even next spring. But then, then I can wear it next spring. But I do want to cast on some new things. In the previous episode, I told you about the indie cheetah yarn, baby alpaca. You see it? Okay, yeah, in real life it's a bit lighter, this purple. I have 6 balls of these and I've been looking. I've been looking everywhere for a vest pattern. I want to knit a vest because 6 balls of yarn in my head means a vest. But I want to knit it with this beautiful shoulder construction that so far I have not found a name for. The Maggie vest by Petite Knit has it, and also some other vests that I've been looking up. They have this beautiful seam line on the back of the shoulder, which I love the look of so much. And basically, if I read the description, all they're saying is that, okay, you knit top down, and then you increase stitches for the back, and then you pick up stitches to make shoulders. So yes, I either want to make a vest with that shoulder seaming construction, or I'm gonna make petite knits. What's that textured one? Ingrid. Maybe I'll make an Ingrid slip over, because I do feel like doing textures, Now that I did color work, cables, and the ranunculus textured yoke, I feel like I can graduate onto more textures. So it's gonna either be a plain vest with the cool shoulder seaming detail, or it's gonna be the Ingrid slip over. I looked at the yardage. It should be doable. Okay, and also another thing that has been on my mind is that I have 3 different shades and I want to make it into one project, but I don't know what yet. Looking at the amount is probably gonna be a vest. Yes, I'm a vest girly. Come at me. Let me talk about it. This is 2 balls of Drops Sky. This is leftover Noro Sonata. I kind of frogged the Olives vest. And this is leftover Drops Charisma from my off-grid sweater by Rose Knitwear. And I just think it would be super cool, these 3 colors together. But I don't know what. So either I self-draft something, or I keep looking at Ravelry. Yeah, so that is my plans for September, and that is this episode. It's a longer one. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some knitting done, and yeah, I hope you have a beautiful transition into the colder weather of fall. I'll see you then. Bye! Trying to make a thumbnail picture. Mm-hmm.